Welcome to this edition of Insider Secrets, the weekly podcast that turns real estate investing goals into reality. Each show, we interview guests who are seasoned real estate professionals, actively closing and managing real estate deals. Mike is the founder of My Core Intentions and would like to help you make your real estate investing dreams a reality. Mike coaches you to buy investment real estate, creating short-term cash flow and long-term wealth. Your host and real estate coach, Mike Morawski, has more than 30 years of real estate investing and property management experience. Here's your host, Mike.
Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Mike, your host of Insider Secrets, brought to you by My Core Intentions. I ask you every week, what are your intentions? Did you get up this morning? Did you sit down and spend some time in gratitude, meditation, or prayer, wherever you get your fill from? Did you have a chance to exercise? Did you plan your day? What were your intentions for today? I often ask those questions because I think that it's important that we empower you with some sound principles and some sound advice that will help you grow personally and professionally. You guys know how important it is that we grow personally and that none of us grow our business or grow professionally until that happens. So today we're going to talk about being an entrepreneur. We're going to talk about podcast production and how to maybe do some things that might take your business to the next level. Before we get to that, remember, please go to wherever you hang out on social media and like me, love me, follow me, subscribe to me, whether it's me personally or whether it's My Core Intentions. So let's dig in. My guest today is Mark Savant, an entrepreneur and digital marketing expert. Mark, say hi to everybody really quick, would you?
Yo, what's up, Mike? What's up, everybody? So thrilled to be here today and talk podcast production. Excited about it.
I'm excited too. I heard Mark on C-Rock's show and was just intrigued by the episode. You guys all know how I feel about Mike and C-Rock. We are going to definitely tear it up here today. Mark owns and operates a social media agency. He helps people create better content in less time. Love that. Mark focuses on power of video collaboration to help clients create constant social media presence in less than an hour a week. His YouTube channel has over 600,000 views. His podcast, The After Hours Entrepreneur, features top digital marketing and media experts. If you're looking to build a brand and reach people online, Mark's your guy. Mark, welcome to the show.
Mike, it's a real honor to be here. Mike, C-Rock hosts a great show. If you're in that ballpark, Mike, this can be a great conversation and hopefully extremely valuable to everyone listening. I take people's time very seriously as I take my time seriously. So anyway, very excited to be here and chat with you, Mike.
I'm glad that you're here. So listen, here's how I kick this off every time. One thing I want to know is, in one word, what best describes you personally and professionally?
One word, what best describes me personally and professionally? Wow, that is a really tough question. I would say creative. If I had to use one word, I'd say creative.
Interesting. 90 episodes in doing this podcast, and maybe once or twice, two people have used the same word, and creative has not been one of them. That's interesting. Talk about that for a minute. What gets you there? Where's the creative juices coming from? How do you get there? What do you do for yourself, much less coach other people to do?
I think creativity for me is more so of a personality trait rather than something you can really train. It's hard to train someone to be creative. I think that there's certain elements that you can imply, and I'm a big believer in outsourcing. If you're not super creative on your own, try to bring in somebody or collaborate or partner up with somebody that really enjoys that. I'm this weird, odd duck where I'm both really great at the creativity aspect and thinking about things and how can we get our marketing and our name out there better? How can we leverage tools like search engine optimization and keywords to make sure that we're actually found, and bundle it all into the creativity portion? What makes it so hard being an entrepreneur is you wear so many different hats, and the other hat is the systems and the analytics and the data and making sure that all the bottlenecks are taken care of. Podcast production, I think, is a great fit for me personally because it leverages both the interpersonal skills, like I mentioned, with building up teams, building up systems, but also being creative to be able to interpret what a client says and then try to grow that into something that is going to come from nothing. That would be my short answer. But I do think that every entrepreneur out there is very creative in general because we're creating something from nothing.
Interesting. So listen, Mark, do us a favor and tell us your background a little bit, fill in some holes and some gaps. Tell us how you got here.
Well, so obviously the story starts way, way back when, but I'm going to fast forward to a major turning point in my life, which happened about 4 or 5 years ago. I was sitting with my grandfather at the time. He's 94. And he says, "Hey, Mark, come over here. I want to show you some stuff." He pulls out this big red binder. He's sitting in his old easy chair and he starts flipping through these pages, these newspaper clippings. He starts taking out different photos and images and registrations and addresses, all sorts of like different knickknacks he's collected throughout the year. And as he's showing me, this is where I went to college and this is where I taught basketball and this is where your grandmother and I got married. And looking at this, I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to be doing this one day with my grandkids. How do I want my story to look? Where is my story trending right now? I've been kind of stuck in a good job, very happy there. But I looked at what is my story going to look like 20, 30, 40 years from now? I wasn't happy with the way it was trending. So for me, that was a very formative moment in my journey in recognizing where I was headed, and it wasn't aligned with where I wanted to be. So at that time, I started shifting and started trying out all sorts of different businesses. And what I love about entrepreneurship and creating something from nothing is you learn something every day. With each client that I work with each dollar that I make in my business, I'm able to adjust and create new offerings that better serve the market. Anyway, it's a long way of saying that I didn't grow up with the Gary Vaynerchuk style, knowing that I was going to be an entrepreneur, knowing that I'm going to create the big business, knowing that I'm going to buy the New York Jets. What I think that I found was that my place, my competitiveness in the market, the assets that I was growing didn't compute with where I wanted to go. So I really took that step forward and started opening doors.
Interesting. I'm a big Gary Vaynerchuk fan.
He's awesome.
Big shout out to Gary V.
He's awesome. And also very much a creator. He's a very creative guy.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to learn there, and he's got a lot of insights. But I think that we gain those insights too by talking to people. It's all about relationship and building relationships, especially as an entrepreneur. I have to imagine in your business, it's all relationship as it is in mine, whether it's a new client coming in or you serving somebody at a different level.
I mean, that's what entrepreneurship is. That's what business is. It's about people, right? It's about the people that you're building up on your team. It's about the people whose problem that you're solving and how can you better solve that. It's all about people. And the better you solve it, the better you're able to communicate. And this is why I think that podcasting is so important right now, Mike, because it gives people an open window into who you are. If we can all agree that business is all about people and relationships, the podcast opens up all sorts of doorways. Without this podcast that you have, we probably wouldn't be talking today. But now I know that in a pinch, I've got Mike in my Rolodex, and there's a lot of value.
I heard a number the other day, and maybe you can quantify this, but 500,000 podcasts out there now.
Listen, 90% of statistics are made up, right? Including this one. So it's hard for me to track, but I've heard pretty recently from Pat Flynn, who's someone I follow closely and I communicate with, that there's currently 1 million podcasts out there as opposed to about 28 million YouTube channels. Podcasting is still relatively, it's not new, but it's not reached maturity yet. So you can absolutely still create compelling podcasts to stand out. The other thing to keep in mind, Mike, is there's a lot of podcasts out there that are dead. They're not even being actively produced anymore, which is maybe where the 500,000 number comes from, because there's a lot of people that start a podcast, they record 3 episodes, and they're like, I'd rather just watch Netflix, and they give it up.
What's funny is I outreach all the time, every day, a couple people a day, trying to get on podcasts because I have a story that's a little bit unique, and my goal is to tell it to the world. You wouldn't believe the amount of podcasts I reach out and they say, "Oh, I don't do that show anymore." It's funny you bring that up, but I never really thought I'd get into it as much as I do. But I love this because this conversation between you and I is a conversation that we probably would have had anyhow. But why not record it and let the world see what's going on?
There's the value. It builds the know, like, and trust. People listen to you talking day after day, week after week. You're open, you're transparent, you're sharing your story. That's what I do with the After Hours Entrepreneur podcast. And people just, they feel like they know you before you've even gotten on the phone. It's really powerful.
I do this one, but then I do another one on Saturday with a co-host. We have 50 years of multifamily experience between the two of us. And we get on, and we call it raw unscripted radio. We bring somebody on, no script, and we just go at it, and always wind up in some rabbit hole trying to figure out how to get out. So that's always great. Hey, you're a professional in this space. Tell me, if I was going to be your client, why and how I could use my podcast to grow my multifamily real estate coaching business.
Podcast to me, really incredible for coaches because, again, the biggest challenge as a coach is getting that first dollar from a client. The reason it's hard to get that first client is they're trying to feel out, do I know this person? Are they going to be here tomorrow? Are they going to give me what they say? Can I really trust what they're giving me? It's that unknown. When you've already got a presence, when you've already got a show out there, you've already eliminated that completely. The other advantage, obviously, is you're in a pretty competitive market right now. There's a lot of people out there that are coaching, getting into real estate and whatnot. It's a huge way to stay top of mind and to be actually known for something that you're creating. But the other thing that really doesn't get talked about enough is the way that we communicate now is very different. The way we communicated even 5 years ago or 10 years ago, it's completely changed, completely shifted. How often are you going to the mall now versus 20 years ago? The mall near my house is basically dead. It's more of like a flea market now than anything. Driving past old computer cities, they're all dead. So anyway, the point I'm trying to make is the way that we communicate and do business is very different. One of the reasons I love podcasting is it's teaching you the most important skill that you could be learning right now. That's how to communicate and how to teach digitally. It's just evolving so rapidly. If you're not learning how to record your thoughts and produce them and scale them out, you're going to be in trouble in the next 5 years. Because I tell you what, your competitor is learning how to do that. When I have a decision between you and someone that's actually producing content that I find valuable, you're going to have a hard time changing my mind.
So how do you know that you're staying relevant? I've been in the space 30 years. I didn't just read a book and say, oh, this would be a great thing to teach about. I've been doing real estate investing for 30 years. And I've got one of these stories where I had a little 10-year sabbatical in between because of some mistakes I made along the way. I'm really one of the only guys out there talking about it. So when you talk about what separates you from somebody else, how do you know what that is? Because you tell your story over and over again, it becomes mundane to you. But how do you know that it's not become mundane to the general public?
This is an interesting point, Mike, because I think a lot of times when people think of podcasting, it's a one-way street. It's a one-way road. People listen to your episode, they leave a review on iTunes maybe once, and then that's it. It's really important that you build an engaged community. It doesn't really matter how many people are listening to your episodes. Again, this depends on your goals. We could go really deep on goals and the way you set up your show and whatnot, but it's about delivering something that is in line with what your customer needs. And their needs are always changing. We already established the world's changing really quick. What happens if there's an interest rate flip, or that the government gives some sort of new house buying benefit, or there's a leasing moratorium? Who knows what the future holds? I think that for me, the biggest thing is trying to engage, trying to get feedback from your audience directly. You can do that in different ways. My email list has been a really powerful way of sending out emails, the new episodes live. What do you think? I get a pretty good response back from that. We're ranging about the 35% open rate, 5% click-through rate, et cetera, but that's part of it. Another thing that I think is really important, Mike, is when you're producing a podcast, it's really easy to get overwhelmed with everywhere that you can be. Got to be on YouTube, got to be on TikTok, Instagram Reels, LinkedIn, of course. I need to be there. So it can be easy to get overwhelmed. For most podcasters that don't have a full production team behind them, I think it's best to focus on just two platforms. Focus on your podcast and one social media platform. The reason is one place is your long form content where someone can listen to an hour, half hour, what have you. The other place is for short, quick engagement type posts, like a poll. What type of multifamily home do you think is the best investment right now? It's just ways to feel the market and feel what people are really interested in talking about.
Yeah, I got a couple questions. Let's talk about social media for a minute. What do you think is the best social media platform out there today?
It depends on your goals. Depends who you're speaking to. If you're speaking to Gen Z, you're probably going to be hanging out on TikTok. If you're speaking to corporate business investors and six-figure income type earners, you're probably going to be on LinkedIn. If you're trying to talk to mom and grandma, you're probably on Facebook. So there's different platforms that you can be on depending on your goals. And really, I think at the end of the day, when you're starting a podcast, there's a few questions you need to ask yourself. One of the questions that you should be asking yourself is, who do I speak to? The clearer you are on who you speak to, then you can start to define, where do I want to spend my time? What should the name of my show be? What is this psychographic Googling? What are they typing into YouTube? How can I show up and provide relevant information? So again, to answer your question, where should I be, really depends on this one question of who do I speak to is a big one.
Yeah, interesting. I've been at this now for 20 months. And after the first of the year, I'm going to hit 100 episodes on one of my shows, and I'll be just short of that on the other one. I like what you said about people, they do 2, 3, 5 episodes and they go, oh man, this is a lot of work. And it is a lot of work. And I have a pretty strong team behind me. And I know that I would not be where I'm at today if it wasn't for the people around me. I got a couple of VAs that are MIA this week because of the pneumonia and One likes to travel a little much.
And to be fair, that's one of the reasons that I started my production agency, is because it's really difficult to get it all down and to figure out what colors operate and what's the keyword and what's the new layout for LinkedIn videos this month, what hashtags are trending. It's so hard to keep up with that. So that's why Mark Savant Media was born, so I can take that off the client's hand and we can handle the production ourselves, because it's ever changing. Before you even hit record, Mike, and I think this is an important thing, it's something that I'm always reiterating both with myself and with clients, is I think the number one question you should ask yourself when you start your show is, why am I even starting this podcast in the first place? Why am I doing it? Because different people have different goals. Some people want to have a radio show. Some people want to fill their funnel. They want leads by interviewing people that might potentially buy from them. Some people want to create a community, or they want to be the next Joe Rogan. So there's a lot of different reasons, but being clear on exactly why I'm doing this, that kind of helps lead you to better decisions in the formulation of your show.
Here's one reason I can tell you why I've been doing it. And I've noticed, I don't think I started out with this intention, but it's kind of grown, which is kind of cool. It's helped me in my public speaking arena. I've been a public speaker for years, but it's really helped me carry more of a message. I get to listen to other people. I have to actively listen. And especially in the sales arena, you have to be a great active listener. And it's helped me to be able to convey a message a lot more. I pay attention to the Gary V's, the Tony Robbins, the Dave Meltzers of the world, the people that are out there really in that public platform. Do I want to be a Joe Rogan? No, I really don't. Not from a podcast standpoint, but here's what I do want to do. I want to be on a platform out there where I am a public speaker and people call me to tell my story, bringing hope and inspiration.
I want to stay on this for just a minute here, because this is a very significant shift that people are talking about, but not everyone maybe is aware of. That's this shift to an influencer economy, right? Because in the past, distribution all went through a few different channels. You go through ABC, NBC, and CBS, and that's where you run your ads. If you want someone to be a spokesperson for your brand, you need to speak to the football player, the celebrity, the Victoria's Secret model. You need the celebrities, but things have completely changed because distribution is not only monopolized by a few TV channels or a few radio channels. You can listen to hundreds of thousands of different creators. And finding your voice within this influencer economy is incredibly important for what's going to happen next. That's going to be everything from finding a job and understanding how to communicate and having that built-in brand. If you want a side hustle, it's going to provide your home with more stability. Because I have influence, now I can have action taken. I'll give you a perfect example of this. I bought a product. It was a computer software that helps you manage your social media accounts. I run a podcast production agency. It's important. So I bought this product. I paid the year in full. In about 30 days or so, I recognized that this is not a good fit. It wasn't doing some things that my team needed. So I canceled it. Came back a few weeks later and I hadn't got a refund. And I reached out to them and I said, hey, what's up? We don't do refunds for these types of cancellations. I said, the hell you don't? You know what I did? I went to my network. I went to Twitter. I went to LinkedIn and I started posting that this brand, I tagged them. They're ripping me off. People need to know. And guess what? Because I had an audience, within a few hours, it was solved and I had my refund back. It's because I have some clout in the market. I have some of that influence, which is becoming more and more important.
Yeah. How do you think you grew that? Where does that come from?
Time. Certainly time is part of it. That's the other part of what I do when it comes to consulting, is trying to help people get there faster. It really comes down to asking yourself the right questions. Why do I have a podcast? Who am I speaking to? What is the problem that they have that I solve? Once you start getting clear on solving people's real problems, you just start to create content around that. And over time, it starts to snowball. The better you are at it, the faster it snowballs. And that's something that I think we all want to be not only just studying, but practicing. Just trying to get out there and improving your show regularly. It has a very significant snowball effect.
One of the things that we talked about early before we started the show today, and you said, oh man, I've already put out 4 fires before this even happened today. So a question I always like to ask my guests is, how do you make high stake decisions? So obviously you got a fire going on, you got something happening in your life. How do you make high stake decisions when they come up?
So for me, high stake decisions really come down to systems and trying to create processes so that hopefully you can even remove yourself from putting out that fire. So once I solve a fire once, I try to put a system or standard in place and try to offsource it. So the next time that fire pops up, one of my team members can help resolve that fire. So That's one thing that I look at. I think setting expectations is underrated too, at least in what I do, consulting and agency management, setting a realistic expectation up front so that the fire never even occurs. I find a lot of problems that I have with clients is because something happens that they didn't expect or they didn't want to have happen. So trying to put the systems and set a better expectation up front helps to prevent those fires. I think the reality is that when you sign up to be an entrepreneur, when you sign up to create something from nothing, when you sign up to put food on people's plates, you're also signing up for the fires. It's just part of it.
Isn't that funny? I've been an entrepreneur since I was 23 years old. That was a long time ago. I was an entrepreneur back when it was not the sexy or chic thing to do. And now today, you can't hire help because everybody's an entrepreneur. Everybody's got a side hustle that's starting to take off. I had a great assistant working for me in a very short period of time, changed my whole life, changed the complexion of my business. And all of a sudden comes to me one day and goes, "Hey, my side hustle took off. I'm going to have to leave." I was like, "Are you kidding me?" So that's the kind of stuff that happens in today's economy, right?
Yeah, that's going to be happening more and more as people realize that maybe I don't need to drive into the office and I can start this side hustle. COVID really accelerated that. Maybe you agree or disagree with this, but because the economy has been so good for so long, it's been, I think, easier for people to get things started. But I think people undervalue as well that feeling of stability. Because to your point, oh my gosh, like every Instagram model with a bang energy is now an entrepreneur, but that's not entrepreneurship. But you're the definition. You're doing it when it's not cool. You just have this kind of drive inside of you. And I think because entrepreneurship has become like cool because of the Gary Vaynerchuk's popularize it, and because it's easy, because it's so easy, like you could set up a website in an hour and actually be selling product within an hour. I think people have this misunderstanding that it's easier than it really is. The last 4.5 years of me trying to build out this agency and all the different failures that I've had, the respect I have for someone that's been doing it for decades is I've really grown another level of respect. It's very difficult.
Yeah. As much as you say Vaynerchuk glorifies this, makes it really cool, he also tells you, if you think you're going to sit in your mom and dad's basement and do something and sponge off of them, go figure something else out. Go get a effing job. So it's funny because he shoots both sides of the aisle.
And he's right too, because it opens up all sorts of doors when you start proactively taking control of your life and your future. He also will tell you there's no crying in baseball, as the old saying goes.
Right. Just because you have 100,000 followers, a lot of times some of that is incongruent. I've got 1,000 followers on Instagram right now, and I've been at it for 6 months. I didn't buy them. It's all organic.
Love it.
And
you don't want to have fake followers because what happens is when Instagram shows your fake follower an image and your fake follower doesn't care, they don't like, they don't stop, they don't comment, they don't look, then Instagram starts to think this content isn't good and it doesn't show it to your next person in line. And that's one of the things I see with clients. They'll come on, they'll have 15,000 Instagram followers and I'm looking through them. They're all robots. You want real human beings. That's very important.
Yeah, there is a difference. And you can notice that difference if you're paying attention to it. As an entrepreneur, you have to pay attention to the metrics, the numbers. I always tell people all the time, every good business knows its numbers. You need to, one of the big things I talk about is you've got to know your numbers. I knew when I was selling real estate that if I made 20,000 dials a year, that I'd sell 125 listings a year. It was just simple math. I knew I made $8 every time I picked the phone up. I'd go to the office and dial for dollars. You've got to know those numbers. Some entrepreneurs go spend $1,000 and get on a private jet and take some pictures and go have a nice car and a couple models, but it's all fake. Where does it come when you really want to go to the bank and cash it in? You know, it's not there.
This problem that you're alluding to, Mike, as we move into this influencer economy where everyone needs to have this digital attention, I think it highlights exactly why having a podcast is so important, because it's not just a picture of you on Instagram. It's actually an intimate setting where someone's putting on headphones, listening to your voice directly in their ear, and you're teaching them something. You're showing up. All of a sudden, you could build that trust. They don't look at you as, is this guy for real or not? No, they know you're for real because they can listen to you. They can hear you. They can engage with you.
This is interesting because I just had the conversation with my marketing guy. We talked about if you were going to create a Super Bowl commercial for what you do, what do you want it to look like? So we brainstormed for a while and I said, I want to have 3 people come in, a construction worker that's just laboring on a job, some guy sitting at his desk after hours like this, just shaking his head, and a woman walking out of work. It's dark out. You could just tell she's all disheveled and had a rough day. That would be the beginning. Then we went through some of these other things, what we were trying to accomplish. At the end, can we have the swimming pool and the Ferrari? And he goes, no, Mike, that's old network marketing stuff. That's fake. It's pretend. You don't want to pretend. You want it to be real. That's the same thing that we're talking about right now. This is an interesting conversation.
Yeah, transparency is really important. Nowadays, privacy is essentially dead at this point. We talked a little bit earlier about podcasting, and a lot of people are just not really sure where to start. The best thing to do is just get started. You can always evolve and adapt and change things. It's not set in stone. You can always adjust things. But I think that just getting started and documenting your process. What are you working on? What are you challenged by? What are you struggling with? I'm going to bring on experts who can actually help me with this problem. For me, that's when podcasting really started to get good. When I can bring on someone like Pat Flynn to help me get a podcast rebrand done. I had a client that I was challenged with. He's in this unique space with his podcast. And I was talking to Cliff Ravenscraft, who's got 41 podcasts. He's helped tens of thousands of people. And I said, hey, Cliff, this is the problem I'm having with this client. How can we fix it? He gave me some specific actionable tips. I could just go on for hours about how much podcasting can change the way you're perceived in the marketplace and even the way that you can service and help your clients level up.
Technology resources over and above a cell phone and computer. What do you like? Give me a couple technology resources you really like to use.
So if you are going to be launching a podcast, I think it's definitely worthwhile investing in a microphone. The mic I'm on right now costs less than $100. At least it did when I bought it. So you can buy a great microphone, super cheap. I would also recommend investing in a good webcam. Most podcasts are going to have some sort of video element into them nowadays. I could get deep into that, but having a good webcam that's 1080p and a good mic, I think that's what you want from hardware. Again, you can do that for a couple $100 or less, like a really good sounding and looking setup. Audio is key. Another thing that I'm a big proponent of, if you're going to be doing remote style recordings, just like we're doing now, for people that are serious, I recommend upgrading from Zoom to something that's a little bit more made for podcasting. A technology that I use, it's called Riverside FM. And it's more designed for podcasting specifically. One of the things that I love about it is that it records locally on each side of the recording, on your side and on my side. It records a high quality audio and video file. And then after the recording's done, it ships that to a cloud. So long story short, it doesn't compress your file. So your audio, your video quality is a lot better on a program like Riverside. I'm a big proponent. I have a free trial offer. If anyone is interested in that, hit me up on Instagram at Mark Savant Media, and I'll hook you up.
With Riverside, can you go live on any platform?
You can. The short answer is you can. If you were wanting to go live and stream to multiple platforms at once, I would probably look at a different program like StreamYard. That's a good one. If you're multi-streaming, which just to kind of break down what that means you're going live on one video camera, but it's being distributed against multiple platforms all at the same time. So I can go live here and people can watch me on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, all these different platforms all at once.
We've been having that conversation about StreamYard lately. I think StreamYard would be the solution for that.
Last I checked, it didn't have multi-streaming to Instagram. Instagram's a little weird the way it works. So what you could do for that is just take out Instagram on your phone and just prop it up next to your webcam, something like that. So you can have that also at the same time.
We could have done that right now, huh? Hey, how's my microphone?
You sound good. You sound good.
It's a Blue Yeti.
Blue Yeti's a great one. One of the things I like about Blue Yeti is it's good at picking up rooms. So you don't have to be like right in front of it, but that can also be a negative too. If you're in a room with like wood floors and not a lot of panels to absorb sound, for example, in your room, you could put up some foam to help absorb some of the wavelengths and it would probably reduce some of the echo. The mic I'm using here is an Audio-Technica ATR 2100. It's what we call a dynamic cardioid mic, which means it doesn't pick up everything that's going on around me in the room. It's only what's directly in front of it.
This has been great. Let's shift gears a little bit. One technique, one system, one thought that you would give a new entrepreneur just coming into the world of being an entrepreneur. What would that look like today?
Step one is don't focus on all the fancy stuff. Just focus on one person whose problem you can solve. Test it, try it. Solves one person's problem. Then you can look at how can I turn this into fixing two people's problems. Don't get so caught up in I need to file for an LLC and I need a website and I need the marketing. Just say, how can I solve a problem and get paid for it? That first dollar is the hardest dollar to make. But once you've made and proved that you can make $1, then the second dollar and every dollar after that becomes easier.
Awesome advice. Awesome advice. 3 quick questions. We'll call this a fire round. Favorite book?
Favorite business book would be The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss.
Ah, great book. Awesome book. How about best restaurant you've ever eaten at?
My favorite restaurant would have to be Ragland Road at downtown Disney. It's an Irish restaurant where they dance. They do these Irish jigs. They brought my daughter up at age 3 to do dancing. So Ragland Road would probably be my top favorite.
You mean Coyote Ugly, don't you?
Well, it's more family friendly. It's Disney. Come on. She's 3. Okay. We're not there yet. Jeez, you make scare me.
Favorite tourist attraction?
I would say Robbie's on Marathon Key. I'm in Florida. I love the ocean, love the beach. And Robbie's is a really cool stop halfway down to Key West.
Okay.
You can feed these giant tarpon, shark, tons of pelicans. It's a really cool spot. Most people don't know about it.
Cool. Mark, how do people get a hold of you if they want to talk to you about podcasting and engage you in your service?
Happy to help anyone. Hit me up, contact@marksavantmedia.com. That's contact@marksavantmedia.com. I'm certainly willing to help, whether that's a consultation or you just have a couple questions, some resources. I got your back.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. Thanks for being here. I certainly look forward to continuing the conversation with you.
Anytime, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. And thank you for joining us for another great episode of Insider Secrets. As always, Insider Secrets is brought to you by My Core Intentions. Wherever you hang out on social media, you will find Mike and My Core Intentions. Please like and follow us to get the most up-to-date real estate investing trends. Visit mycoreintentions.com, where you can get expert coaching on all things real estate investing and property management. If you're looking to become an expert, Mike's coaching will help you scale your real estate investment business. We're looking forward to having you back again next week for more Insider Secrets.